happens when who you are gets buried under what you do. I am your host, Shreya. On this episode of Inner Peace, Better Health, we are joined by Matt Morizio, faith driven father of seven, former pro baseball player, and founder of Reconstructing Wealth. From chasing the dream on the pitcher's mound to reshaping his relationship with money, identity, and purpose. Matt's mission is clear: to help others find peace and presence by reclaiming their true self, beyond titles, careers, or bank accounts. This is a conversation about wholeness, worth, and waking up to your real identity. Welcome, Matt. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor. It's my honor to be on it. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much. And Matt, your journey began in professional sports, something many people would see as a dream identity. When did you first start to question who you were apart from what you did?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say that the realization that who I was not what I did, that happened probably the day I got released from professional baseball with the Royals. So they called me the evening before I was going to be released to let me know, hey, tomorrow's your last day. This was spring training in 2011 in Arizona, and they called me. And I remember was newly married at the time. After that phone call, I hung up and I hugged my wife. I started crying, and I realized like part of my tears was that I didn't know what I was going to do, who I was. I didn't recognize myself outside of baseball necessarily. So I had to go on this journey of understanding that what I did was not who I was, because I had unintentionally and, in my opinion, incorrectly wrapped my identity into my profession.
Yeah. And that kind of shift is really deep. And thank you for sharing your own story. And you now guide people through financial transformation. But you say it starts with internal work. How does identity shape someone's relationship with money?
Man, that's a great question, and actually a question that people don't necessarily even know to ask. So kudos to you on that. I will
Yes, so
I will I will use the lottery winner as an example. So statistically speaking, an overwhelming majority of lottery winners, when they win their prize, they end up spending all their money, losing their money, and going back to kind of where they came from. And a lot of that has to do with that never having done that inner work beforehand. So they don't do the inner work of I living into that wealthier, fuller version of themselves. So their identity almost couldn't believe who that person could become or could be. So what happens is their subconscious goes to work to figure out how to return to what is known and what is comfortable. So even though they don't knowingly or consciously go and intentionally lose the money, what ends up happening is their internal wiring works hard to bring them back to what they know and they believe about themselves, because they haven't done the work of embodying that identity of that fuller version of themselves yet. So I actually think that the identity work needs to happen before the money comes, because otherwise you run the risk of being like that lottery winner if you don't have the internal wiring correct.
yeah. And it's really an inside out process. And also, what is one common belief people hold about wealth that keeps them stuck in fear or maybe in scarcity?
Yeah, one common belief that I see routinely is that it's not okay to talk to people about money. Um, it's expected for some reason that people will know how to do everything with their finances,
Mm.
though they've never been taught in schools, they've never had conversations with people about how they manage their own money and what they do with it. Yet the expectation on them is if you earn money, you should know what to do with it. And it's just not when
Mhm.
you logic, like when I say it out loud, logically thinking, you say like that makes no sense. Of course, you don't know what to do with it. You've never been
Mhm.
taught it. You've never talked to
Yes.
anybody about it. It's a socially taboo subject to bring to the table. So you're in this vacuum or this black hole with money trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with it, but you can't ask anybody because it's taboo. So you're relegated to hopefully YouTube searching or something,
Mhm.
or using Chat GPT to try to figure it out. And there's plenty of information on the internet. So I actually say to people, you can have a wonderfully successful financial life if you just search for the right stuff online. The challenge becomes there's so much. What's the right stuff and what's the wrong stuff? But yeah, the common misconception, the common belief that holds people back is that they're supposed to do it on their own and they can't talk to people about it. They're just supposed to somehow magically know what to do with their money once they earn it.
Yes. That's so true. I thank you for enlightening this. And also, my next question is a little different. Like, what helps you reconnect when life feels overwhelming or you start over identifying with a role?
Um, ask ask me that question another way. When I start to over identify with a life role, like what I'm doing.
Yes.
Um, so ask me that again. So what is
Okay.
one thing?
Okay. So what is one thing that reconnect you when you like start over identifying yourself?
Okay, I understand the question now. Okay, um, for me, the thing that is my foundation that roots me in who I am when I start to stray into what I do more than who I am is my faith. So I'm a Christian. That's my faith, but I believe that we should all have some type of faith system. I'm not saying you have to be a Christian and believe mine, but I am saying that if you have something that you can believe in that's not going to fail you when the rest of the world does fail you, you can lean on it in times of trouble. You can lean on it in times of joy. You can also like you're saying, recalibrate back to who you are in that faith, that bigger purpose. It's about more than just you. When you start to think like, man, I'm pretty, especially when you start to have some success, maybe financial success, or you get notoriety, then you start to think like, look how good I am, look what I've done. And that actually pulls you from who you are. You start to identify with the success and you chase it. But for me, it's my Christian faith, but I think that anybody should have some type of belief system or some type of faith that that reminds them that it's not about them and there's a bigger purpose behind everything.
Yes, yes. And you just mentioned that you are a man of faith and also you are a husband and a father of seven. How do you stay grounded in who you are while navigating so many roles?
Oh man, that again, like I have to lean on faith on that one because holy smokes, just being a husband and father of seven and founder of a firm, there's just so much happening in life that the thought for me of if I had to do this whole thing on my own, it would be really difficult. Um, so I do lean on my faith for that, especially when I feel like I don't know which direction to go in, or I don't feel like I have the energy, the strength, the guidance to move forward. That's where I kind of really lean into that because it for me becomes like this guiding principle, this guiding light for me. Because otherwise, gosh, like I said, all of that you just mentioned, even when you say seven kids out loud, I think like, holy smokes, that's a lot of kids. But then I remember that's my life.
And that holds a lot of grace. And also, how did reconstructing your wealth also reconstruct your peace, your sleep, your presence, and also your relationships?
Yeah, good question. I guess I didn't know at the time that I was changing my relationship with money. But it's one of those things that in the rear view, I realized, holy smokes, my understanding and my relationship with money has changed so much. And I can see like the spillover effect into other areas. So I guess I would have to back up where when I was a minor league baseball player, I made less than five figures. I made like maybe $8,000 or $9,000 in a whole year. I made 6,000 as a player, and then I did odd jobs, substitute teaching, snow plowing, whatever I could do to earn a little extra income that maybe was two or three more $1,000. So I actually had like hardly any money. I also had nearly no debt. So I wasn't owing people stuff, but I had a really unhealthy relationship with money. I lived in scarcity. Um, but you fast forward to growing a family, 7 children, launching a business, the financial demand on all of that, I actually carry a ton more debt today. So you would think on paper, and some of it's bad debt, admittedly, some of it was to keep food on the table as I was growing my practice or launching the business, just the need for immediate income. Like I had to use credit cards and other sources of bad debt to make ends meet and to move the ball forward. You would think on paper, looking at my life now, you're like, man, you actually have a way worse financial picture than you did when you earned four figures. But the reality is, through that journey of understanding how the game of money works, I'm actually able to see it less emotionally. I'm able to emotionally detach from money. And when I can do that, I see money as a tool, kind of like a carpenter would see a hammer for a nail type thing. So I'm able to use money for what it is and see money for what it is. And that brings me a lot more peace because I don't have this heavy burden of unknown and fear weighing on my shoulders. So that when that burden is lifted from my shoulders, it allows me to be much more present with my children because I don't need to be with them worrying in the background of, can I do this? Is this going to work? How am I going to pay that off? Because I've got an understanding of it and I've got a plan for it. So it's really just on me to execute the plan, which allows me to be more present. It also reminds me that I need to maintain my health, my fitness, so that I can execute the plan at a high level. It gives me the freedom to enjoy time with my wife, as opposed to saying like, hey, I know we should have this date, but I really got to work because we're in this financial hole that I got to get us out of, like, so the spillover effect of changing that relationship with money, seeing it for what it is, not, and I don't want to confuse it. It's not having tons more of it. Like I said, I guess financially speaking, my picture looks worse, not better than it did when I earned four figures. But because my relationship, my vantage point is totally different with it, it allows me to enjoy and be more present and be more fit and love my family more because of that.
Yeah, yeah. That's those words are so powerful, and how peace and wealth can rebuild together. This is wonderful. And if someone listening today, yeah, I get you. And if someone listening today feels lost in what they do, defined by their job or maybe title or maybe income, what would you say to them right now?
Well, I would first say that's hard, and I feel you. I feel for you. I've been there. Um, Wrapping your identity in what you do is a path to unfulfillment. So I'm sorry that you're there, but also kudos to you for recognizing that you're wrapped up in your identity. I mean, excuse me, you're wrapped up in what you do as your identity, not who you are. But it's time to do some deep diving, some internal work into who you are. And what that means to me is understanding how you're gifted and who you're gifted to serve. Because the reality is, our whys, almost all of our whys, are nearly always a who. Our purpose, our why is almost always a who. So I would encourage that person to not look at their life for what they do and start to think about who in their life matters, what types of people do they feel called to serve, and then I would try to understand how are you uniquely gifted and uniquely positioned to serve those people. And sometimes in that journey, what can happen is they find out that they're actually in the right place, ready, like uniquely gifted to serve the right people in their current role. They just were looking at it from a completely wrong perspective.
I think those words mean so much. And thank you for sharing so much with our audience. And now, if I want to request you that if you can share something or give a message to our listeners, like all our listeners.
Yes. So first off, thank you for having me on this. This is really cool. You have really wonderful questions that the questions are quick and the answers are I guess quick, but the work behind the answers is really deep and takes time. But I appreciate the questions you're asking. So thanks for having me on. I want to say that if anybody listens and they feel a stirring in their heart as they hear me talk about money and transforming relationships and figuring out how the game of money works to get clarity on their own financial pictures, my the best place to follow me is on Instagram. If you follow me at Matt Morizio and you just DM me course, I'm going to send you a link to a course that I created for free. You just need an email address and you'll get the course on nuts and bolts, kind of how money works, but also some of the bigger picture, high level, how to change your relationship with it to go from confusion to clarity to from scarcity to abundance. So I want to share that before the podcast is over, just to know, just so people know, like you can follow me on Instagram, DM me, you'll get a course, and you can go to work on this, and it's completely free. The other thing I think I would want your audience to recognize is that they have an opportunity right now to change the trajectory of their family trees forever. Because what really happens is we inherit from our parents, whatever their relationship with money is. And our parents often inherited their parents' relationship with money. And like we started at the beginning with that, the belief that holds people back is that they can't talk about it. Problem is our grandparents and great parents, they passed these unhealthy relationships down with money, and nobody has ever taken the time to talk about it, to figure it out, and to change their perspective on it and how they relate to it. And I'm here to tell you that when you become the one in your family to say, no, it's going to stop here. I'm going to use ChatGPT and Google and Perplexity and AI and whatever you're going to use to start to understand how money works. And then I'm going to figure out how to apply some of the principles that I'm learning to our life. And we're going to talk about it as a family. I promise you, you will start to change how your children, if you have children, you'll change how they view money. And they will take that new relationship and they will expand it and grow it. And they will stand on your shoulders and do more than you have ever done because you took the reins and decided to change the trajectory of your family tree forever.
Yes, that's so wonderful. And you just mentioned your Instagram, but also, if my listeners want to connect with you, what are the best ways?
Instagram is best at Matt Morizio. It's just my name. My website is also www.reconstructingwealth.com. That's another spot you can find me. I have a contact page. You can send me a note to the contact page there. Those are probably the easiest and the best ways to get in touch with me.
That's wonderful, and I will make sure to attach all these links and details below so that our listeners can find them easily. And
Cool.
with that,
Thank you.
yes, thank you. And with that, Matt, we have come to the end. And our listeners, Matt reminds us that your worth isn't found in your title or your paycheck or your performance. It's found in your presence, your values, your soul. So if you have forgotten who you are, pause, breathe, remember, you were never what you did. You are always who you are becoming.